All right, let's dive right in. Picture a colorful animated hero for a second. Maybe they've got a shiny cape, a huge confident smile, and just a whole lot of ambition. They take this massive running leap to do something incredibly brave and smack! They do a complete spectacular faceplant right into the dirt. I mean, we've all been there, right? When the big risk totally backfires, a relationship ends, or your confidence just shatters into a million pieces. Today, in this explainer, we are digging into Brené Brown's transformative book, Rising Strong. We're going to break down the actual, literal mechanics of getting back up.
Think of this as our little hero's animated treasure map for getting back up. We're going to cover the physics of vulnerability, the reckoning, the rumble, the revolution, and finally, the fall, feel, rise loop.
So, let's start with part 1, the physics of vulnerability. Vulnerability really boils down to this: emotional exposure, risk, and uncertainty. When our cartoon hero takes that giant leap, they are stepping right into the unknown. But here's a really crucial distinction we have to make. Falling down, that is not the failure. Staying down is.
You know, when we step into the arena, whether that's in love, in a creative project, leadership, or just personal growth, failure isn't just a slight possibility. It is a 100% certainty. Literally 100%. Choosing to live with real integrity means looking at that massive, terrifying guarantee of failure and deciding to choose courage over comfort anyway.
Which brings us to part 2, the reckoning, where we have to face our emotions.
So in the immediate aftermath of a fall, our hero is just face down in the dirt. Naturally, our instinct is to run away from those scary shadow monster emotions. But a true reckoning requires 3 steps. First, you pause. Second, you ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? And third, you name it, out loud. Anger, fear, disappointment. The very second you point at that shadow monster and give it a label, it shrinks in power. Honestly, it's your very first act of courage in getting back up. And speaking of those shadow monsters, we absolutely have to talk about the darkest little gremlin of them all, shame. Shame thrives in secrecy and silence. It creeps in every single time we fail, whispering things like, you know what, you're just not enough. But the ultimate antidote to that toxic whisper is empathy. If you take your messy, painful faceplant of a story and share it with an empathetic friend, and they respond with understanding instead of judgment, wow, shame completely loses its grip.
All right, moving to part 3, the rumble. Time to rewrite your story.
This is where we enter the messy middle. And honestly, this is where true transformation actually happens. You have to ask yourself an incredibly tough, uncomfortable question. What story am I making up? I want you to literally pause the next time a project collapses, or maybe someone just doesn't text you back, or a relationship hits a wall, and ask yourself this. Because in the absence of real data, our brains will always, and I mean always, invent a worst-case scenario that's born out of our old wounds. It's because our brains are literally wired for story, not accuracy. They just want a beginning, middle, and end. So this is the exact moment our hero has to take off their cape and put on a curiosity detective hat. Curiosity is your absolute superpower here. It allows you to stay open just long enough to turn that raw pain into usable data, instead of just reacting out of blind fear.
Let's look at a quick example. The false story tells you, my boss criticized me because I'm totally incompetent, right? We've all been there. But when you put on that detective hat and really rumble with the facts, you might discover the true story, which is, my boss is under a ton of pressure right now, and this feedback is actually just a really great learning opportunity. Rumbling with the truth like this transforms you from a helpless victim of your own assumptions into the empowered author of your reality.
Next up is part 4, the revolution, rising stronger.
Our hero has investigated all the clues, and now it's time to take radical responsibility. The ultimate mantra for really owning your story is this: this happened, it hurt, but I am still here and I am learning. I love that so much. Do you notice how there is absolutely zero self-blame in those words? It is pure self-empowerment. You can't change the fact that you fell down, but by integrating the lesson, you fundamentally change the way you live and lead from this moment forward.
Now, taking this into the real world. Workplaces often punish vulnerability, but the truth is, trust and innovation only thrive in environments where people are actually allowed to stumble. Vulnerability is what sparks real creativity and change. Teams that learn to fail together inevitably rise stronger together. And it all starts with leaders who are brave enough to model empathy and own up to their own faceplants.
And for your personal relationships, this single phrase is a total game changer. The story I'm telling myself is.
Listen, when conflict happens, instead of accusing your partner or just withdrawing into a defensive little shell, try using this phrase. It invites understanding and it immediately chooses connection over protection. It shows the other person you're actually willing to have the hard conversation honestly.
Finally, we reach part 5, the fall, feel, rise loop.
Because our hero's journey doesn't just end after one adventure. It's a continuous cycle that constantly expands our capacity for courage. Step 1 is fall, embracing the totally inevitable reality of taking risks. Step 2 is feel, where you reckon with those shadow monster emotions and rumble with your internal stories. And step 3 is rise, where you write your revolution. The secret here is that you do not have to be fearless to be brave. You just have to be willing to feel the dirt on your face and then make the choice to get back up.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one really vital question. What new ending will you write for your story today? Because the people who live the most fulfilled, wholehearted lives, they aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who have mastered the art of rising. So take these tools, step back into your arena, and rise strong.